So what was all that hype around the Edge? Let's find out. And we're back, DLG fam. Here we are once again with another wonderful review. This time around, we're gonna touch base and try to clear out what was all that hype around that Edge controller. But I want to show you guys real quick, as you guys can see right there. Check out the awesome lizard skin on my controller itself. This will take your grip game to the next level. But let's talk about the Edge. Yeah, so it's been a few months since the actual launch of the Edge controller, and I gotta say, it is a pretty cool controller itself. There's a lot of bells and whistles built into it, but we're gonna touch base on what the pros are on the actual controller. But let's not forget about the cons, because every product has a con to it. You already know it cannot be a perfect product, just like this one right here, despite the fact of its price tag, which we will touch base on later on down the video. But as of right now, I can tell you that it's the same thing, just because one has bells and whistles. Let me know down in the comments below if you actually own an Edge controller and what are your thoughts on it. So let's go ahead and dissect this controller, not physically, right? Let's just talk about what are the pros and what are the cons. Bam! There it is, the DualSense Edge with the custom lizard skin grips, because yes, I do sweat a lot from my hands, and I don't like the feel of the plastic while I'm sweating, so the actual grips help out a lot. But we're not here to talk about the grips. We're here to talk about the controller itself. So the Edge controller is just a DualSense controller with extra bells and whistles. Everything is the same on the controller itself, except the actual extra little buttons, you know, here and there. But as far as the actual color scheme, as you guys can see, it has the black buttons with the black directional pad, where on the DualSense you get the white buttons with the white directional pad. I'm not a fan of glossy blacks, and I think matte would have looked a lot more better. So what's the differences between the two controllers? So the two controllers are still the same. The buttons are still as clicky, the directional pad as well. The thumbsticks are actually the same. Everything is the same. That's probably because this is a little bit more newer. I was about to say, hey, the thumbsticks are a little bit more stiff on the Edge, but they're newer, so there hasn't been that many miles put into this actual controller like on the original DualSense over here. As far as the thumbsticks go, you're still using potentiometers inside the actual thumbsticks. You're bound to still getting stick drift on the actual thumbsticks. Why? Because that's just normal wear and tear. If they happen to switch these to a Hall effect thumbstick, then that would actually be much better. The Hall effect uses magnets in order to detect the movement within the thumbsticks. Other than that, you only get these extra buttons here. On the back side, you get the paddles. These are actually remappable to whatever button you want across the actual controller itself. These are the function buttons. These will allow you to quickly access all the different controller layouts that you create for it. And that is actually doable through the actual software that is on the PS5. So let's go to the bottom of the controller. As you guys can see right here, they're still using the same earphone jack, just like on the original DualSense. As you guys can see right here, this black band that goes all the way around the controller, but it cuts off here because of the skin, but it goes all the way around. That's pretty neat. They attempted to give it a premium look by adding this band, where you can see on the original DualSense controller, there's no band. The black actually stops here right at the bottom of the controller itself. You also get the trigger stops right here. As you guys can see, you get a full pull, medium pull, and a short pull. I myself, for first-person shooters, I actually use the short pull. I want to ask you guys, do you guys think that by using the short pull, you actually benefit from pulling the trigger a little bit quicker than your actual opponent? Let me know down in the comments below. That's something I would like to know. Sony still brought along the adaptive triggers, which means that depending on the game you're playing, if you're playing Call of Duty, it will simulate different type of trigger effects depending on the weapon that you're using. Now, if you're playing, let's say, Horizon Forbidden West, when Alloy is using the bow, when you pull the trigger, you're actually able to feel the tension that's being created when you're pulling on the bow. So as far as the back paddles go, these come in two different sizes. You get the full back paddle, and let me show you the other ones that you do get. You actually get some half dome size type of back paddle, as you guys can see here. I prefer to use these because they feel a lot more comfortable, and they actually align a lot more naturally to the way that I'm actually holding the controller. Let me know down in the comments below, how do you feel about using back paddles? I think there's a great benefit by using the back paddles and assigning the button that you use a lot. That way you avoid taking your fingers out that thumbstick. You also get some thumbstick dome shape replacements, and one of them is short, as you guys can see right there. You got a little bit taller one, as you guys can see right there. I myself, I prefer to use the concave ones because I feel like when I'm using them, I'm able to hold on to the thumbstick depending on the way that I'm actually pushing. And these I feel like my thumb is gonna slip off. So what's the weight difference between the Edge and the actual original DualSense? Let's check it out. The DualSense comes in at 339 grams. Let's round it off and say 340 grams, where the original DualSense comes in at 286 grams. Let's say 290 grams. So there's only a minor weight difference. So with that slight difference, you really won't be able to tell when you blindly grab a controller if it's the Edge or the original DualSense. Modern controllers will always have the same problem, which is stick drift. As long as they keep using potentiometers inside the actual thumbsticks, you will always eventually end up getting stick drift because of the fact that the potentiometer has parts inside that rub up against each other, and obviously that has wear and tear throughout time, and depending on the usage of the device. Now, if we point out the Hall effect thumbsticks, those actually use magnets in order to detect the movement within the thumbsticks themselves, and that's pretty cool right there. So another thing that you're able to do with this controller itself is, let's take off this faceplate right here, and if you guys see right here, there's actually some latches that allow you to, guess what guys, you can swap out the actual thumbsticks. Pull it up, bam, slide it out. This right here is actually gonna be sold by Sony for $20. cALi Design on Twitter mentioned earlier this year that they were gonna work on a Hall effect thumbstick replacement for the DualSense Edge. Once those come out, bam, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna replace them because none of us want that stick drift. The way you replace these, you just put them right here, slide it back in, bam, push the latch down, and you're ready to go once again. All right guys, now let's go to the software and show you guys how customizable is this controller. All right guys, so now we're gonna go into the software so you guys can see how customizable is this actual controller. It does have its own software built into the PS5. You go right here, and this is where you actually assign your custom profiles. Alright guys, so right here you're able to create your actual profiles. As you guys can see, I already have one set up for the FPS games, and you guys can see right here, you press the function button and you will see the assigned profiles. I only have one set up so far. You press the triangle, you'll feel a vibration on the controller to let you know that profile has been assigned. You press the function button again, and you're able to switch over on the fly, and that's pretty cool because you don't have to back out into the actual PlayStation home screen in order for you to be able to swap between profiles. That's the assigned profiles right there. You're actually also able to adjust the brightness on the actual controller. By this is actually the indicators that ring around the actual touchpad. Bright is the standard, and if you don't like it, you could actually put it all the way down on dim. I just leave the default settings. So as far as the function buttons go, it actually has its own dedicated menu, as you guys can see right here. You go in here, you're able to disable the function button, but I suggest you guys don't do this because you will not be able to switch actual profiles on the fly. So leave that on. You go to display content, and as you guys can see, you can assign from custom profiles, and you could also adjust your headset volume through this particular function button by pressing it, and then you press the up or down key. As you guys can see on the screen, I'm able to raise up the headphone volume, and right now I don't have a headset plugged in, so I'm not able to adjust the game/chat audio balance. So the DualSense controller is actually up to date. You're actually able to receive feedback on the controller when you're switching profiles. You could disable a control indicator. The control indicator says right there, it'll flash when you actually switch between profiles, or the controller will vibrate. Alright, so as far as customizing the actual controller, you go into the certain profile that you already created. Let's say FPS. Here you're actually able to adjust anywhere from your stick sensitivity and the dead zone, the trigger dead zone, the vibration intensity, and the trigger effect intensity. So let's say you want to reassign your buttons. You go in here. As you guys can see, you can reassign every single button that is actually on the controller itself. As you guys can see right here, I have the back paddles reassigned to R2 and L2 because those are the ones I use a lot more when I'm playing Call of Duty. So now let's go to the actual stick sensitivity and dead zone. You're able to adjust the stick sensitivity or the dead zone to anything that you may like. So right here, you could go into your left stick and assign all these different profiles. I use steady because I feel that this one allows me to have a smoother transition when I'm actually looking around. You could also adjust the curve adjustment, as you guys can see right there on the left hand, on the left bottom of the screen, and you can also adjust the dead zone. What this means is how far do you have to push on the actual controller before your character actually makes the movement. I like to leave mine at 0% because I just want it to move as soon as I press it. So right here, the trigger dead zone, how far do you have to pull on the actual trigger before it is actually activated? As you guys can see right there, I have the short pull right now, and as soon as you press it, it turns completely blue. But I'm gonna go ahead and switch it to the actual full pull, and as you guys can see right there, I'm gradually pressing on the actual trigger itself, and that's what is representing on the actual screen. Same thing goes for the left side. Move it over to the actual full pull, and it's the same deal. You could adjust it on the left hand side from or to, depending on however you want it. I like to leave it just like that. So the vibration intensity, this right here is something that a lot of people might not like. I like to feel the rumble on the controller when I'm actually playing, but you could turn it off, set it to weak, medium, or strong. Strong is standard, I leave it at that. But then again, if you guys think about it, this actually takes away a lot from your battery. So it might be something I might have to think about if I want the battery to last a little bit longer. So as for the trigger effect intensity, you're actually able to do the same thing, just like on the vibration. You adjust it right here. Let's leave it at strong. That right there, guys, is the full customizable software that is built into the PS5. I'm gonna show you guys real quick how you're able to swap between custom profiles. All right, so let's go ahead and try to swap between. Right now, we actually have the FPS custom profile, and if we press the function button, we can go back to the default profile on the fly, as you guys can see right there, and that's pretty amazing. No need to back out into the original software to be able to make this change. So let's go back, put it back on FPS, and I want to touch base also on the trigger pull. So when you're actually using the full range on the actual trigger pull, it does not disable the actual trigger effect. If you shorten down the trigger pull, it will turn off the trigger effect because it cannot give you the full sensation of you actually pulling on the bow or pulling the trigger on whatever gun you're using. All right, guys, so what do you guys think of the actual DualSense Edge controller? You know what, guys, to be honest, it is a pretty good controller, but it's not worth the price tag that it's at just because of all the bells and whistles. Basically, it's a DualSense controller with just some extra buttons on there, and I feel that it's still lacking in certain departments. So as far as the layout, guys, I personally don't like it because I feel that when I'm gaming on the actual PlayStation, that right there actually takes a toll on my thumbs and they start to hurt after a while. I think the symmetrical actual layout works a lot better in conjunction with the way that I actually play. Let me know down in the comments below, how do you guys feel about that? So another neat thing that came with this controller itself, besides bashing it right now for the actual layout, is this particular plug. This plug itself, what it is, it's this little device right here and a USB Type-C cable. This will allow you to actually not only charge your controller, but you can lock it in place, use it on your PC, and what that allows you to do is have lower latency when you're doing competitive gaming, because obviously latency is a big issue when it comes to competitive gaming. You want to be able to have the upper hand on your enemy in order for you to be able to come out on top. And this cable itself, it's pretty long, so I believe it's about 2.8 meters, and that's enough length for you to be able to comfortably sit down on your chair and not yank it. But one thing is, look at that, guys, it actually holds in place really well. We're gonna try something right now, and hopefully this doesn't come out, but look at that. Woo! You're able to swing this around, so if you pull it accidentally, it's not gonna pull out of the actual controller. Man, I thought that was gonna come out and I was gonna have a controller flying into one of my monitors over here, but it's all good. So guys, the downfall of this controller is, drum roll please, the battery. So the battery is the downfall for this actual controller. You would think that being a premium controller that comes out at $200, this thing is not worth the money because of that. I feel that we were all ripped off when it comes to the actual battery life on the DualSense controller. Yeah, it has all the bells and whistles and you're able to customize it on the software, but what does that matter if your battery is 33% less than the original DualSense controller? Sony, get your head on straight and fix the problem, because this is not gonna fly. The original DualSense controller has a 1560 milliamp battery. That gives you, according to Sony, about a 12 to 15 hour gameplay, which technically it goes about to 5 or 6 hours depending on your use, which that is very bad if you ask me. Now, as far as the DualSense, why would you actually drop the milliamps on the battery? The DualSense has a 1050 milliamp battery. You're talking about a 510 milliamp difference. You're selling me a controller for $200 with a 510 milliamp difference, and it's gonna die on me after about 5 hours of gameplay, where you're claiming the actual controller will give you anywhere between 5 to 10 hours of gameplay. It's all BS. It's all a marketing scheme. I'm not here to bash on Sony or anything, but when you're paying this amount of money for a controller, guys, come on now. I still use it, but I'm the only one that uses it right now. How about when my kids start using the PlayStation and they want to use the DualSense Edge? Guess what, Daddy Tech? You're gonna have to recharge the controller in order for you to play. And I don't like to have to be recharging my controllers. I want them fully charged as soon as I grab it. So I just wanted to point something out, guys. The actual Elite Series 2 controller gives you a whopping 40 hours of gameplay. Man, now that's what I'm talking about. I want a controller that will give me almost a full 2 days worth of gaming without having to actually recharge it. Now, they would have done batteries, which we already know that Sony has the built-in battery. And yes, the Elite Series 2 is rechargeable as well. But give us the option to be able to swap out batteries or give us a bigger battery. You should have given us like a 1850 milliamp battery instead of robbing us with 510. So what are the big pluses, the big pros on the actual controller? Well, the thumbsticks are swappable. That's good because when you have stick drift, you don't want to have to crack open the entire controller just to replace one thumbstick. So that right there, Sony thought good about that because, you know, you'll just like pop it out and push in the new one. The customizable software. Yeah, I know I bashed the controller a bit, but you know what? I think that with the software, you're able to do so much with the controller, but that battery though, that battery is really just getting to me right now because that's the one thing we all want. We want an extensive battery life on our controllers to avoid having to be looking for the darn cable to recharge it. And the wired mechanism, it's okay because hardly any latency. Plug it into your PC and bam, go on and go into your first person shooter and go kick some rear. All in all, guys, I feel that the controller is worthy, but it's not worthy of that price tag. Maybe you could have sold it for 125 bucks. Then yeah, you know what? I'll say, you know what? It's worth it. But not a $200 price tag, guys. Let me know down in the comments below if you own a DualSense controller. I want to know what you think about it. So if you're a dad, a gaming dad, looking for a way not to overspend on controllers that drain your battery quicker than your wallet, don't forget to check out my latest video. But till next time, guys, I'm tEcK. Peace out. I can't believe Sony got all of us to buy this.